What is up, YouTubers? We're back here working on Gordon. We're going to take a break, do something a little different this time. Taking a break from the motor, and we're going to switch to the suspension. So I'm going to do a 5-inch drop in the front and a 7-inch in the rear. And we ended up going with chassis tech off eBay. Figured I'd do a little bit of eBay stuff on here. It's going to be a static drop. We're not doing airbags or anything like that. So the kit came with new spindles, shocks, and then the brackets in the back basically to do an axle flip. So what we're going to show you now is how to get these brake rotors off and basically how we're going to put the new spindles on, you know, separated from the ball joints and things like that. Me personally, I've never done this before, so it was kind of cool to kind of go through it and figure it out. And in case any of you guys haven't done it before, I'm going to show you how I did it at least. It might not be the right way, but I've done the other side already just to kind of familiarize myself with it before I go do it for you guys, but at least I think I did it all right. So I'll show you what I did, and then if you see something I did wrong, maybe comment below. Hopefully if enough of you guys see this and I can fix it, because I haven't got the other side completely buttoned up. I'm just waiting on the brake pads, but I think everything is pretty good to go, and I'll show you hopefully maybe at the end here the difference. Well, actually I could probably show you that now. If you want to come over here real quick and see, this is, so here's the other side. I did this side already. Got the brake rotors turned. I don't even know if this thing has had a brake job since it was new, since it only got 60,000 miles on it. It might have been what was on there still factory, but like I said, I'm just waiting on the brake pads. I went and tried to get some earlier and got the wrong ones because there's a couple different kinds apparently that was on this truck, so I got to get the right ones on there. But this side's finished, and you can see, I don't know, maybe if you can get the camera in there and see the difference from the right and the left. You can maybe get underneath it. You can see how far the rotor hangs down. If you can see that or not, the difference in the height, maybe from the control arms.
I think so.
Yeah. So and I forgot, the kit also came with drop springs. So drop springs and a drop spindle to give it the 5 inches. So other side, like I said, is done other than the brake pads. Just got to bolt that back on, and we're going to do this side now. So where we're starting, I'm hoping I can get these rotors turned as well. They don't seem too bad. The other ones were a little bit grooved. That's why I got them turned. These aren't, well, just a little bit, not too bad, but I'll still get them turned. But the difference, there's two different types of calipers they put on this truck. One was the bolt-on type, where you just like pretty much any other car where you have a bolt here and a bolt there, and you take them off. But this has what they call clip-on type, which is kind of weird. It's like one little like Allen head bolt here. So I'm going to pull this bolt out, and then this little plate basically slides out toward the engine, and that releases the caliper. So we'll get that off, but first we're going to have to get the cotter pin out and the axle nut off. Basically that goes in right there, if you can see it. So to get that out, there is a hole in the rotor right there, if you can see it. So you basically stick your screwdriver or whatever through that hole to pop your dust cap off. Once you get the dust cap off, then you got to take the cotter pin out and then take the axle nut off, which is a 1 1/4 inch socket to get that off. And as I go through this, I'll give you guys the sockets I use, like to get the ball joints out, the upper and the lower, and the steering, the tie rod ends, I believe, and the shock. So we'll start with this here. Let's see if I can get that out. It was kind of a pain just dealing with this one hole. There's only this one hole here. There's not one on the other side, so you basically just pop it from that hole and then kind of work with it and get it to come off. So that's what we're going to do right now. There we go. All right, we got it off. So now, as you can see, maybe there is your axle nut or rotor nut, whatever you want to call it, and you have a cotter pin in here. which is kind of a pain in the ass to get out too, because you don't have a lot of room to work with. So we are gonna fight with this for a little bit, see if I can pull that out. So if we tear it up, try to get it out, that's fine. So there it is. And it's split in two. So, alright. So now we're going to take this axle nut or whatever you want to call it off, and if you can see, it's not going to take much to loosen this. I mean, if you look, there it is. And it just came off like that. It's loose. So these don't get tightened very much. You're not going to torque crap out of it. I basically just torque it, tighten it until it makes contact with the washer in there when you put it back on, and then turn it until you can see the hole to get the cotter pin in. That's pretty much it. So there's your castle nut there. Alright, so now that that's about ready, put this nasty ass rag here now. So now we're going to do the clip-on style brake calipers, what they call them. I'd never dealt with anything like these before, so it was kind of a learning process. I actually went to just the old YouTube to figure out how to get this off. So here's my take on it. So like I said, you'll get this is a 1/4 inch like Allen head kind of. So what you're going to do, you'll pop it in here, and this one wasn't very tight either, and there it is. And so you'll take this out. Set that out of the way, and now we got to get your clip or whatever they want to call it out of the way. So you just got to take a screwdriver again and use one that you don't like or don't mind tearing up, and you're just going to tap this, basically tap it until it comes out. It'll slide out toward that way. There's going to be a metal like retaining clip almost that goes in here. You can see it. This is the top of that retaining clip right here, and it's kind of bent with tension on it, and this will pop out with this plate, so that's what holds it in place. So you'll see it when it comes out. So that's the retaining clip right there that's coming out with it. Like I said, it's bent with tension on it, so as soon as that gets far enough out to where it kind of releases, this thing will pop out. Alright, so that's out. The clip slides out just like that, so it was in there like this basically. So that's how it's going to go back in. So we'll set that off here for now. And now this thing should be ready to come out. So if you look at it, it basically, you got to stick a screwdriver or something in here, and you'll kind of wedge it out and up, and that'll start to get it out of there. Okay, so the bottom pops out and the top will pop out like this. Basically, you just kind of work it off, and there you go. These brake lines don't give you much room here, so we'll flip it up, slide the. There we go. So now I believe the brake rotor should be ready to come on. So grab this bad boy, and there you go. And that's it. And so with these style, there's bearings in here, and then in the back side with the race, like a seal, I mean. And to get these turned, they pretty much have to destroy the seal to get the machine in there. So you just buy new seals. They're like $3 or $4 from AutoZone. So I'm going to take this today and get this turned just like the other one, and then we'll be back and put it all together. I'll show you how it goes all back together when I get the right brake pads, and we'll finish getting the spindle off, which will probably take another 45 minutes, but it's already probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to have to call it at that. And we'll get back with you in a second. I'm going to show you step by step here how to get these spindles off. So With this, what I'm doing now, I'm gonna take this little dust shield off, the brake dust shield, so it is 1/2 inch. Alright, there's that. Take this off, I'll clean that up later. Alright, so now do this the steering deal here. Like I said, I got the cotter pin already out. Those are pretty easy. I didn't bore you with the details on that. Hopefully you guys know how to take cotter pins out. Alright, so there's that. These would be a little tricky to separate. We have the little separator here. I try not to use that right now because I'm going to try to reuse these. I mean, like I said before, the truck only has 60,000 miles on it, so these are still good. There's no play in them, so I'm going to keep trying to reuse them. I just don't want to tear up the rubber boot by jamming this in there. I think I got the other one off by just kind of hitting this and then popped it out. So we're going to try that. There we go. So that's out. Now we will go to, let's go to the lower, yeah, we'll do the lower ball joint. All right, get the jack under here. We want to get it right about there and support this, just like that. Ask me how I figured that out. That spring has a lot of pressure in it, turns out. So we'll find the right socket here and we'll proceed with this lower one. Actually, I'm gonna do the upper one first. I did that first last time and that worked out pretty good. Alright, so look at the top one. This one's 1 and 1/16 inch. Alright, that's off. Put that over here. Now the bottom I think was 1 and 1/8. So I had to go buy that. Okay, got the cotter pin out, we're good to go. 1 1/8" socket to get the lower ball joint off, so here we go. Alright, that one's done. Kind of weird how these are different sizes, but just keep them organized, or just like I did, just do one side at a time so that you can look at the other side and reference it if you forget how something goes back in place or what bolt goes where. Just look at the other side. So we're good to go there. I think it's about time to actually need to get the sway bar off. So the way I did it, there's 2 bolts right here on the sway bar. They're 9/16. I'm just gonna get those off real quick, and then we got to get the shock off the bottom, and then we can proceed. Alright, so we're going to loosen the lower shock mount here. 19mm fits really snug on here. I like the way it fits, so I'm going to use that. You could probably get away with the standard equivalent, but it seems like on this truck, some are metric and some are standard. It's kind of weird that way, and I'm just going to use a crescent wrench on the back side here. Before I go looking around what size it is, I used it on the other side and it did just fine. Alright, shock is out. Well, bolt is anyway. So that thing's good. So now I think we can separate these. So for ball joint, this one I pretty much had to use that. I had to use this, so I'll try and be as careful as I can and not mess up the rubber here. There we go. So that's out. So now we'll let this down easy. Ish.
Or not.
This one wasn't too bad to get out. I was actually able to just kind of pop this bottom one out by hitting the bolt there. I'll make sure the jack's actually, let me get the jack out of here. much better. So there's your spindle. Got that bad boy off, and so we'll clean up this stuff a little bit and then get back with it when we start to put the new one back on. All right, now we're about ready to start putting this thing back together. So here are the new springs I got from Chassis Tech off eBay. I don't know if I told you that before, I'm pretty sure I did, but these are the new springs and here's the old ones. You can kind of see the difference here. And actually these shorter springs will make it a lot easier going in, going back in. So we're gonna do that. So I'll just set the spring in here and you can kind of see in here. It's a slight little pocket right there where the old spring was. You might not be able to see it that good, but if you're doing this job, just look in there and you'll see where it's kind of lower right here, and it seems like it kind of is like a ridge. So you'll just put your coil spring up against that little ridge you see right in there as best you can. So that's what we're gonna do. So now I'll just jack this up just a little bit to kind of get it started. That's pretty close to where I want it, so now we will.
Then you grease the...
I'll put grease on these guys here, and there's some on here already from being on the other one, so this is going to go like this. Yeah, your clip where the brake goes back on is on the bottom here. So it's going to go on this way. Okay, then just lift that up, drop it right in there. Now go up, and then fit in there a little better. Keep going up. We can put a go ahead and put our castle nut here on this bottom one, so I find the right one. Screw that on there. It's got to be this one. So let me
Trusted it?
oh, yeah, let me go ahead and cut my own threads on there. It's just like the other ball joint, the whole thing's spinning. So let's see, I might have to replace these ball joints. Hopefully not, but. Clean the threads out here as best I can. This looks like I might we'll have to end up replacing this ball joint because the whole shaft is spinning in here, so I can't thread it on. But that kind of happened on the other side, but I was able to get it on. It just eventually stopped spinning and grabbed. So we'll see if I can get it to going a little easier, clean up these threads a bit, and we'll take it from there. I guess I might have to replace this ball joint, but we'll see. Actually, I guess let's see if we can get the top on. We'll take it from there. If I can get that one on, we can just put that on, and then, I guess I just take the bottom off. Weird, and then that's it. I bet when I pump grease in there, it'll push that back down. So that one, good to go for now. So here we are back on the lower ball joint. As you guys probably saw at the last, into the last video, the ball joint, when we tried to put the castle nut back on it, this whole thing just rotated. And it was pretty loose in there, so it was obviously bad. So I had to, I ended up renting a tool to press it out. And that's basically, I didn't want you guys to see me cussing and banging on stuff here on the camera. That's why I didn't film it. But in hindsight, I probably should have, but it was a total pain. This thing is, I don't know if it's just, this whole apparatus here is just kind of big. So when you go to put the screw on, it's like a C-clamp that goes around it, and the part that screws down on it, this was too tall. So I basically had to cut it off. Cut off the top of it to get the tool to fit on there. Once I did that, I was able to get it out. And then you basically have to reverse it, turn upside down to put it back in, which once this went all the way up like that, I couldn't get the tool underneath it because the post had to go down here. So we had to jack the truck way up in the air, the front end up, so we could basically get it to go in there. So fast forward about 3 hours and a bunch of cussing, we got it in there. So now I think this thing's pretty much ready to go back together. So that's what we're going to pick up right now. So spring is going to go back in. Hopefully this will go a lot smoother than last time. So that's there. Make sure it goes in there. This is where your jack comes in handy. It's kind of rested on there. So if you look in there, you can see the pocket where the spring goes in. And we'll just jack the control arm up in there. Double check. It seems to be where it needs to be. So now what we'll end up doing is just jacking this up. Our jack to get the ball joint in there. Then we'll get the nut started. So now basically we're ready to start torquing everything down. So this top ball joint nut here, right, that one gets 50 foot-pounds. This bottom one gets 90, and then your steering arm right here, right here, this guy gets like 41, 42, something like that. And also a thing to note is with this Chassis Tech spindles, I don't know if the other ones are the same, but you basically have to take this and turn it upside down. And it goes in through the bottom and the nut goes on the top, whereas the way it came off was like this. It went straight down. So we'll flip that around. I'm just going to loosen up one of these guys, spin it, and we're going to have to take this to an alignment shop anyway, so they can deal with that to get everything back together. So that's where we're at. I'm going to jack this up a little more, get it totally seated, and then we'll proceed. That's a good idea. I found out from doing the other side to leave this disconnected until you get the top and bottom ball joints torqued down, because it helps to turn the spindle to get your wrench in there, your torque wrench. I have the brake caliper here. It's just tied up out of the way so it's not hanging by the lines, because you never want to do that. So we're going to get the torque in here and then we'll flip that steering around. Grab the torque wrench real quick and get to it. All right, we got our torque wrench here set to 50. For the top one here, and I'm gonna find the right socket here, let you guys know I forgot which one it was. So it's this one, 1 1/16 inch for the top one. So we will attempt to torque that to 50 foot-pounds and see as soon as I start to turn it, it wants to turn the spindle, so that's fine. We'll just let it turn and then it can lock itself out against the spring. I actually get to it better anyway. And there's 50. Wasn't too bad. Now we'll set this thing to 90. Do the bottom. Alright, we're at 90, so here we go. There we go. So we just hit 90. So now we're going to deal with this tie rod in here. So 13 millimeter looks like it'll get the job done. So let me track down a 13 millimeter socket. That's enough. There we go. And it's spinning. And there you have it. So that goes in there. Get the castle nut there. Okay, like I said, this was 40, like 41 or 42, something like that. We'll do 42. There we go. This one is 15/16. There it is. That's at 42. And then we'll go ahead and tighten this back up. And like I said, we're going to take this, definitely going to take this to the alignment shop, and then they can get this squared away. Alright, so now all we really have left to do is there's a cotter pin in this one. Then there's a cotter pin in the lower ball joint down here. So I'm going to throw that cotter pin in there and I'll get back with you guys and we'll start these brakes here. We're going to get the rotors put back together now real quick. I took these rotors out to Brake Masters, had them turn. It was like 20 bucks a rotor there. I don't think they've ever been turned even from when the truck was new, so that was pretty cool. They were able to turn them. They had to destroy the bearing seals to get their tool in there to hold it on the lathe. So I'm gonna put a new seal in there, and then the bearings that came out. Get that trash out of here. But this is the bearings that came out. I cleaned them off because it had the old grease in there and it was all dirty and nasty. Took them out, cleaned them off real good, and normally I'd probably use the little packer deal where you put it in there and then you put the thing and you pump the grease in there. But I lost my pump and the packer for that matter, so we'll just do it by hand. It'll accomplish the same thing. So basically you're just gonna get some axle grease. I got this Valvoline stuff here at the auto parts store, and I'll basically just grease it up. It's kind of messy, but totally worth it. So I'm just gonna do this, basically cover them up, and then the rotor there I cleaned out the race and the part where the seal goes with the with the paper towel or rag or whatever. Just clean that out, getting ready. And I'll pop that new one in here in a second for you guys. It's pretty easy stuff, but I'm just getting this nice and nasty. And like I said, these bearings are still good. I wiggled them. You know, they spin freely. They don't clatter or make any noise. You know, they're not loose, so they're still good. So we're gonna press on with that. And once we get finished, then we're gonna continue to put back the other side of that spindle over there. I should have everything I need now to complete that. What I try and do is just try and press it, like smash it in the rollers there. Just press in your grease so you can get it in there and just rub it in real good. I think that's plenty of grease, and now we'll drop them in there. So this is the back side of the rotor, and this is where this bigger bearing goes. There's another bearing that goes in the front, but I'll put that on when I get ready to throw it in there. So just drop it in like that. Make sure I make a huge mess with everything in there. Now, since I kind of boogered that up, I'm going to have to clean out that race part again just a little bit. I just don't want globs of grease in there, but AutoZone race, or seal, I keep calling it race. Seal, that's pretty much going to go in just like this. Like this little recess side there goes down, drops in there like that. And I usually get like a block of wood or something, and I'll put it on there and just kind of tap it in. And that's in there. So kind of a pain in the ass, but it wasn't that bad. Just got to work with it a little bit. So that's ready. Then we'll flip it over, get all the brake clean these off and slide these on the spindle, and then I'll put the other bearings in first and then slide them on the spindle. But I head back over there. We got to get the spring back in there. All right, guys, got the cotter pins on, and then got this dust shield on right here. All this stuff's pretty easy. I didn't film it. Cotter pins, you know how those work. I should have tell you guys that. Just these 3 bolts for the dust shield, and I just got the new spindle coated with grease. So now that I got my helper back, I'm gonna go grab this brake rotor and throw it on. And this thing is super heavy, so give me a second. So here we are with this big boy here. So on it goes. Whew, I think it's no joke. All right, and then I'm gonna throw here's the other bearing here. Got this one nice and coated. Slide that one on the spindle. And then with the hanging on the spindle like that, it's not just gonna pop in. You're gonna have to kind of hold it up and push it in. So, do is just kind of lift that up. And in it goes. So, we want to try and get in there maybe. You can see in there, basically there's that bearing right there. I just pushed it in. And then you're going to get your washer here. And as you can see, it's got a key on it right there. And the key goes in that slot pretty.
Hold that up a little bit better in the light. There you go. All right.
It's like a keyed washer, and then you'll see the cutout on this end of the spindle right there. I don't know if you can see it in the
kind of
with the light or not, but it basically slides on in the keyway, keyhole to keyhole, and then you get your castle nut. It's right here. This pretty much gets no torque at all. I think, I don't know if I told you this or not, but when I was taking it off, I almost could have unscrewed it with my hand. So we're going to make sure that's on there, make sure that's all the way back, and then turn it. What I usually do is turn it until it makes contact, and then I'll turn it just until I can line up the holes to get the cotter pin in. And we'll call it good. So I'm gonna, and then make sure I keep pushing that up and pushing back just to make sure your bearing's all the way back where it should be. So this is pretty good. You can see it moving in there. Just take your hand, force it back, and then just keep making up the difference here with the cotter pin. I mean, with the nut, and then I think find the hole, stick the cotter pin in there, and so I'm good with that. So now we'll jam the cotter pin in there and call it good. Crappy part about this is that, as you can see, there's really no room in here, so you're gonna have to bend the cotter pin. I usually bend it like at a 90-degree angle just so you can get it in there, and then straighten it out and then fold it back and do your thing. So, all right, let's give it a bend like that. See if I can get that in there. All right, cool. So we got it in there. Now, straighten it out. Push it in there. We're through. Yeah, hand me those.
Needle nose?
Yeah, they're yellow handle ones. Get some needle nose. That way you can grab these guys and just bend them back. Just like that. Alright, that's a wrap on that part. So now that's done. That's good. Put the cap back on. Just like it came off, you'll just pop it back on. Just like that. Get my rubber mallet. Just kind of tap it back in place. Or the metal one, whatever. That's good. So now we're going to move on to the calipers. So the calipers, as you guys know with any brake job, you got to push the piston back in into its recess basically. So what I do, I'll just use an old brake pad, just like this. Put it against the piston, and then get your C-clamp, and you'll just run it in. This is basic stuff here, but for those who don't know. Alright, that's about as far as it's going to go. So now, take that off. Leave that there for now. Got my new brake pads on this side here. And have little grooves they fit in just like that. And if you see, this one is still in here. This old pad, we'll just pop it out and then we'll put the new one back in. Bring it out of there. And put the old in with the new. And then before I forget, get some brake clean. Then we're going to clean off both sides of this rotor here before we put these pads on. Alright, got my brake clean here. Alright guys, we're getting ready to put these clip-on style brake calipers back on. So in theory, what will happen is the top right here will just kind of go into this area, then the bottom should go into here, and then we'll basically secure it with that little spring-loaded tensioner and this thing, and then the little spring-loaded tensioner, wherever it is, right there, which goes on top of it. So if I can at least just get the brakes to see, let's start with that first. On the other side, I had to grind this edge down just a little bit with the grinder because I just could not get this to go in there. I spent like 45 minutes trying to get that in there and it just didn't work. So I finally pulled out the grinder and I mean, not even a millimeter off, and it popped in there. So I'm hoping this one goes right in. And if it does, then I will be done in 5 minutes. If not, then make that like 45 minutes. So here we go. Now you just gotta beat it up. I was trying to cuss for you guys there, but you just gotta beat the crap out of it. So I got that in there. All right, the bottom clip is in. Man, that really sucks. So if you look and see, it's probably gonna be hard to show you guys on film, but if you look at this edge right here, this edge is gonna basically fit into that groove right there. So what you'll end up doing is you've got to put this on top of here. This is that little tension spring. You'll put it on top of here, and then you're gonna slide it in just like that. I got the spring like this, and then it's just like that. And maybe, just maybe, line up that hole over there for the bolt. And there you go, fellas and ladies. This is the bolt we took out of it. Just pop that in there and get your, I think it was a 1/4 inch looks like hex head deal, and it wasn't on that tight, so we'll just get it in there pretty tight, and that's it. That's so it's kind of a pain, but they're gonna be worth it. We should be good to go on that front. She spins freely. There you have it. Alright guys, the last part of the Chassis Tech lowering kit. Got these old front shocks off, and you can see they have this little, I don't know what that is, little spacer kind of built into the bolt, which is built into the shock, so we can't reuse that. These are the new shocks they sent us in the kit. So in order to make this work, we ended up buying this is a 4-inch bolt. I don't remember what size. I think it's 1/2 inch. I think it's a 1/2 inch bolt. 4 inches. We got the grade 8 hardware, the grade 8 washers, and then a 1-inch spacer. And we put this in there. It should come out to about the same as the factory one. I did the other side already, and it worked out. So basically, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna stick this up in there, put it through like that. We're gonna put our washer on here, spacer, and the washer, and this is basically going to go up against the frame. So this will go through the frame, and on the other side of the frame will be our washer, lock washer, and then the nut. So we'll get that bolted up real quick.
Let me get a good look at that.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So that's pretty close. Close enough. Like I said, I did the other side already. That worked. So that's how we're gonna. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna go put that on there, and then we'll bolt it up. And like I said, that should finish out the suspension to the front, the lowering kit. You can see this is the hole right here for the shock. Right there.
Yep.
So we'll put the spacer on there and the washer, and we'll jam it up there. Just like that. And it goes. The washer, lock washer, and a nut. Alright. So that's hand tight. The good thing about this is they're both 3/4 inch. So I'll pull the shock down about as far as it goes. Get it in there. Then we're going to have to jack up the lower control arm just a little bit to get it in there. And that's tight. We're doing the same thing up here. Alright, there you go. Suspension's tight, shock is in, and the front suspension is done. All we have to do now is bolt on the wheels. Good to go. There you have it. Like I said, that's the chassis tech. 5-inch drop in the front, not too bad. So then we're going to tackle the back next and see how that goes. Hopefully it goes a little smoother. And none of it was really hard. It was just kind of a pain just dealing with ball joints. I hate front suspension work. So, but like I said, it wasn't that bad. So we will get back with you when we do the rear, which hopefully will be shortly.